on this episode. I thought I'd bring in, a lawyer to talk about, the importance of, why we have lawyers, in this industry. Because a lot of clients ask, why do I need a lawyer to close my mortgage when I'm refinancing, right? They think they could just pull out the money and we just sign the papers and that's it. So today I brought in Santiago Costa, or Santi, from Bayfront Law. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Dee.
Glad you're here. It's a funny story. So I met you actually. I reached out to you. So my daughter does co-op at your law firm.
That's right.
So my daughter, her interest was to go into law. So when she had told me that she was doing co-op at your law firm, I Googled it, obviously, and I'm like, oh, he's a real estate lawyer. I'm like, okay, interesting. So I remember saying to her, okay, Maya, she's probably going to kill me right now for saying this. But I remember saying to her, you know what, I'm going to reach out to you. And she didn't want me to because I think she was probably more embarrassed of what am I going to say. And I get it, she's in high school. But I'm glad I did. So I reached out to you because I was looking for a relationship with lawyers. Obviously, we like to have, a few lawyers because every client has a different personality and, or, a different fit. Just like realtors will have a couple or certain mortgage brokers because we all have different personalities to fit their clients. So, and we've also done a few deals together. So I've got a taste of what it's like working with you and the people at your law firm.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. And first off, I hope Maya still wants to be a lawyer after this co-op's done. I suspect she will be, but I'm not sure she's going to get a whole lot of insight into what a conventional law firm looks like.
Right.
And that's a little bit by design.
Yeah.
And I think you've kind of cued in on that. One of the things that we like to do is establish these really strong relationships in the industry, which is, I think, kind of what resonated with you, and what's resonated with these few clients that we've been able to assist with.
Yeah, no, for sure. People don't realize the value when you have a relationship with the lawyer when the deal is going down the drain.
Sure.
Like, for example, we had a deal together that just recently closed, and my client was getting frustrated because it was supposed to close on a certain date. And had he used a lawyer to, so what happened was he had his first mortgage with a lender, and they used their in-house lender because it's a lot cheaper, right?
Sure.
But cheaper isn't better. And when you're on a time frame of I need the funds by this day for whatever reason, you want to work your hardest to ensure that it does close on the day that the client needs those funds. And I found, every time our clients choose to use the in-house because it saves them money, it ends up like it's a disaster.
So I think it gets down to the root of it is what is kind of the role of the lawyer. So in a transactional sense, it's a little bit different, but it doesn't stop being kind of the advocate.
Yeah.
Everyone can think about, criminal defense lawyer. Everyone thinks about Harvey Specter, and they think this is the lawyer. It's the litigator, criminal defense lawyer, and those are just the two kind of best examples. When you get to the transactional side, you get to sort of registering mortgages, transfers, that real estate lawyer stuff. It can seem kind of nuts and bolts, but that doesn't mean that there's not this advocacy piece. And also it seems like you guys are doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of those nuts and bolts. We get instructed, and we turn around to the client, we say, okay, lender says everything's good. Here's a set of documents we need to run through. We need to explain these documents. We need to get you to sign we need to get you to make these promises, and then we send them back. They say, okay, then we'll receive the funds, and we kind of quarterback it on this nuts and bolts piece. But the truth is, we don't stop being advocates, and that's really what you get out of a lawyer at its root.
Yeah.
So then let's look at that example. The example is, and we get this more and more frequently, it's on a refi. They're with one of the conventional sort of top financial institutions.
Yeah.
And so they've gone to, say, a mortgage specialist at their bank. And
Right.
the mortgage specialist has said, okay, we've got a couple of debts to consolidate, pay out. We've got this product, and we're going to use in-house to register. Okay, so the same question that goes with a lawyer goes with, why am I not using a mortgage broker like yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've gone into the bank. All of my checking accounts are with the bank.
Yeah.
So why am I not using that? And what's the benefit? So that's kind of the same. It's very directly analogous. Whereas you're in a position to say, okay, well, everyone's got this. All the big financial institutions, they've got their sort of standard mortgage products. They've got that readvanceable portion, but they're different. I mean, they're slightly different between the different lenders, and that could be as different as they could be wildly different. And so you're in a position to kind of guide the client on that basis. Mm-hmm. Same deal with a lawyer. So a lawyer kind of is more of an advocate that doesn't have an interest outside of the client, whereas when a client goes to an in-house lawyer to do the registration, in a very real sense, the lawyer, the department that's putting together and registering that refinance is not entirely independent, not entirely the advocate of the client.
Right.
And that's why you start to see, okay, we are at capacity. This is a refinance. It's not life or death.
Yeah, and you get that all the time.
So we're going to push it down a month, and we're at capacity. That's what we can do. Well, that's not entirely in line with the interests of the client.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're subject to kind of the pressures of the wider financial institution.
Yeah.
And so you've got that advocacy piece. They are not acting exclusively in their interest.
Yeah.
So then we're not in that position. Once you say to the client, okay, maybe that's a viable option. Maybe they are saying that they're going to register this mortgage for $700, and that'll be that. And you send them off, but they might be subject to all of these delays.
Yeah.
And so on the face of it, you might see that and say, okay, it's slightly less expensive. And you might also say that there are efficiencies in using the same lender and the same in-house department. But in effect, it can be quite different from that.
Yeah.
Because they might go to, first of all, they might not close on time, and they likely won't. Then the other thing that we see quite often is that although these rates are said to be quite a lot lower, because the financial institution is not necessarily the advocate on behalf of the client exclusively, the courts have said that in a set of circumstances, it's compulsory to have the client obtain independent legal advice.
Right. I've seen that on commitments where they ask for that.
And so the client is then out knocking on doors, getting a lawyer to sign off on this certificate of independent legal advice, often paying in addition to that. So some lawyers will charge $500 or $600 for that certificate of independent legal advice, when in effect what they've done is gone through the disclosure statements and looked at the mortgage. Maybe there's a spouse that's not on title that needs to be. Okay, so all of this, you may have at the outset sort of this understanding that it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But they're going out and they're having to hire a lawyer in any event.
Right.
And the economics of the deal are suddenly kind of thrown out of whack because while that $600 or $700 does sound cheaper than Bayfront that says, okay, it's $949 flat fee.
Well, that's what I like about your office is that you guys disclose what your fees are, right? Because when we have clients, so our job, we like to refer out, and the first questions they ask is, well, how much do they charge? Because I went to this other lawyer, and by the time I was done, I was like at like $2,500 on a refi, and I was like, what? So I didn't know that you guys actually send the price to the clients on your welcome package, which is amazing.
It's right out there. It's on the website.
Yeah.
And the idea there is really to hammer home a couple of things.
Yeah.
So part of the question that the implicit to the question that you're being asked, why do I need a lawyer, is, how much is this going to cost? There's
Yeah.
there's specter of indeterminate costs,
Yeah.
just runaway costs. Lawyers are kind of seen as inaccessible, and this big question mark.
Yeah.
So how do we respond to that? We put in flat fees, but they're actually flat fees. We just say on a refi. So you've got $949 in terms of our legal fees. Our disbursements are also capped.
Yeah.
So $329, they're going to be $329 every time. If we need to discharge 2 mortgages and send out and pay out the automobile loan,
Yeah.
it doesn't change. And so that answers that question in terms of indeterminate runaway costs, and that lets you say to the client, this is why you need a lawyer, because you
Right.
get certainty and predictability
Yeah.
in terms of closing the deal. And then they can reach us anytime because we're not docketing by time. So they're encouraged to reach out and speak to us as many times as they need. In effect, that
And
sounds...
you're not charging them every time they call
Exactly.
you.
It's flat fee.
$400 every phone call.
It's flat fee, exactly. So that's that benefit that they can just access us.
Yeah.
Incidentally, they rarely call me. They mostly call the clerks, who are phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
So, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when it's so rewarding when, anytime we refer people, it's a reflection on us, right? And I had a client where she was selling her home, and I'd asked her if she had a realtor to sell her home. She goes, you know what, I'm not using the same one that I used to purchase this property because the lawyer she referred was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a reflection on her. So now she won't use her. I want to get feedback that if I'm referring you, that everybody that is partaking in this deal is going to come back with a positive, like that. Our last client, he loved you guys and he raved. And I was like, oh, thank God, right? Because there was a time throughout that deal where it was a little bit stressful because it wasn't closing on time, and it wasn't our fault. It was his financial institution was the reason why.
So not only that, but he was able to shoot an email to me and say, where is, there were a series of payouts, and there was a component of the funds advanced that were going to him.
Yeah.
And so he's looking at his bank account and he's saying, I thought it was supposed to land in the bank account today. So he could give us a quick call, and I, having actually made the payout through our wiring facility, was able to get the wire confirmation, provide that to him, and yes, sometimes it gets hung up. Invariably, it gets hung up, I should say, on their financial institution. But that kind of gets to this broader point about what that referral means, and making sure that it's on brand with you guys. And so if we can just kind of peel back the curtain and talk about the back end a little bit. Your clients are, you've set up all the finances for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Or a realtor has finally, in this market, been able to secure them this wonderful home that they've been looking for. Maybe they've seen 14 different places and made all of these offers. And so that's rewarded by the client with this implicit trust.
Yeah.
And when you say, hey, I've got these lawyers, they're doing something a little bit differently, I suggest you might want to go with them. They trust you implicitly, and so we need to reward that by actually maintaining that kind of on brand with what you're delivering. They should come back to you and say,
Yeah.
this was pretty different than the last one.
Yeah.
That's
You guys are
the-
trendy. Like, you're not like those typical lawyers where, you're coming with your suits and you have your briefcase.
Yeah, we call those brown suit lawyers. There are no leather-bound books in the office, and so that's really by design. It's sincere.
Yeah.
Because I myself come from a background of having worked with kind of the two more established older firms in the city.
Yeah.
And there is a very deliberate sort of projection of that conventional lawyer, that law firm,
Yeah.
which is useful in some contexts.
Yeah.
You don't want a criminal defense lawyer that's as approachable and friendly as we are.
No, for sure.
So that makes sense. With that said, we don't operate in that environment.
Yeah.
We are a real estate and commercial law firm. We have every ability to make the touch points with the client friendly, effective. I mean, we don't compromise in any respect on the issue of competence.
Yeah.
But that said, within that context, we can do a whole lot to make that experience on brand with you guys.
Yeah.
And have that client come back and say, "Oh, this was awesome."
And it doesn't matter where the client lives. Like, so our client, he lived in Windsor, and your office is in Hamilton, and you guys can still facilitate that deal, right?
Absolutely. So that's another piece of that sort of approachability strategy. It's like, yes, there's the lawyer as approachable. That's kind of new ground. But physically, we should be able to service anybody in the province. And so that's kind of what we've aimed to do. We say we're as virtual as you elect and as brick and mortar as you need. Kind of reworking that tagline. That's a little clunky. But yesterday we received a referral from someone in Sault Ste. Marie. So we have been making inroads kind of provincially.
Yeah.
And that's exactly that idea. When we're doing these client signups, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to access those,
Right.
because 95% of our clients, they want to be able to set up the laptop on the kitchen island. Kids are running around. They've got 15, 20 minutes before dinner, and they want to sign these documents and they want to get it going.
Yeah.
And so we're able to do that.
That's
Now,
great.
we've got the boardroom, we've got the offices to be able to bring anybody in that wants to come in, and I'd love it if they did.
Yeah,
I'd
you
love
have a very
seeing-
nice office.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But with that said, the clients in every instance, in virtually every instance, they want to meet from their client. We're going to test this out. We got a call from a client around the corner. I think I could throw a baseball at their house. I won't. I mean, that's not effective client management. But we're going to see. I'm going to bet that they still want to meet virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. When you guys get instructions from the lender,
Sure.
do you guys actually go through the entire commitment with them on what they're, because the only reason I'm asking is I had a client that had a private done last year, and it was a disaster. Like, she was, involved, I call it predator lending, and she was a victim of that. And when I called the actual lender, his response was, well, this is the lawyer's fault. The lawyer should have explained to her what she was signing.
Right.
It didn't take any liability himself at all on this thing. Because I said, how did you even sign this? She was like, I don't even know. I don't know what I signed. And, I don't know who the lawyer was. And I'm not blaming him because I don't know. I wasn't there at the time. But, you get one lender saying that this is the lawyer's fault. He should have disclosed everything, yet the commitment came from the lender.
Sure. So that is kind of that's a bit of a fringe case in terms of it's a bit egregious, because I do believe that from from an advocate's perspective, it starts as well with the mortgage agent.
Yeah,
It
for sure.
also starts with the realtor. And in aligning ourselves with the right people in the industry, those are the right people. So
Yeah.
that said, we do go through those documents, all of the schedules. When we get in a typical transaction, we'll get those documents from the solicitor condition documents. Those are coming from, say, Scotia. And what we're asked are to discharge our duty as lawyers. We've really got to get a signature on a document that says the standard charge terms were received, and I suppose it's implicit that the client could have reviewed and taken a look. But we stop. I at minimum stop. I'm taking a look at this disclosure statement. I'm ensuring that this is in line with their expectations.
Yeah.
We're looking at stuff like repayment schedules. So sometimes it's something as mundane as that.
Yeah.
They might have spoken to you guys and said, "Oh, by the way, I want accelerated biweekly," and then it gets to us, and that's just fallen through the cracks. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but
Yeah.
that's something that we stop and we consider, and so that's pretty valuable. Have I blown up more than one of these predatory sort of lending scenarios?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And that gets back to the root of the lawyer as the advocate,
Yeah.
and that we should never abdicate that role. We still are, in a very real sense, acting on behalf of the client,
Yeah.
and so we have duties that correspond to that role, and so we should be looking at this, and we should be saying, wait a second, the expectation is to be refinancing within the year at this sort of exorbitant interest rate.
Yeah.
Fine, but you realize everything's going to need to go right in order for this to work perfectly.
Yeah.
Failing which, you're looking at a default. All of these questions are worth asking.
Right.
And it's not just a question of registering a charge and off you go. So we need to never abdicate that role as the advocate.
Yeah. So that's why we need a lawyer. So it's because you're registering a new loan to the property, right? Because I will have clients. Well, they're adding a HELOC in second position. Why do I need a lawyer to, close this? It's only $50,000.
So at its root, that's kind of the nuts and bolts. And at its root, we've said, okay, the land registry system is something we should probably protect. We can't let everybody just register this or that. So let's use lawyers to do that. We can ensure that there's a standard in terms of representation, in terms of advice. We can ensure that we can accountability in terms of how we're registering these things. And so, yes, that dollar figure might not seem to warrant the,
Yeah. Yeah.
but, play that out on a provincial level with all of the transactions. So we need ultimately to have some accountability in terms of who's registering what. And at its root, I can't, I must be sort of ensuring that we're not, we're doing these title searches, we're doing off-title searches, these sorts of things.
Yeah.
that are kind of essential.
Yeah, well, it's funny when you said the title search, because I get a lot of clients saying, I want to remove my dad and, put my mom on. How easy is it to do that? Do I just go to a lawyer and they get that done for me?
So at that point, you definitely need a lawyer.
Okay.
Because there are, and you might not just need this lawyer, you might need an estates lawyer.
Okay.
Because you might be talking, we need to understand what the motivations are.
Yeah.
Is it a succession plan? Is it in terms of let's try and optimize the tax treatment for a given property? These sorts of things. At that point, that's not just. I mean, I hear your client that's saying it's $50,000 tacked on. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when we get to this sort of tax planning, when
Yeah.
we get to estates, wills, all this stuff, which real estate is at the intersection of all of this,
Yeah.
then there's no doubt about it that you need to consult a lawyer.
That's good. It's a lot of info, and I know the value that your office brings from the business that we have sent you, and we will continue to do. We're very pleased with the outcome. Our clients are very happy. You guys are well organized. Communication is impeccable. And it's nice knowing that, when things are a little bit rocky, having that relationship with you guys is so key for us, because if we can get a hold of you together, we can, our goal is to make this client happy, right? And, with your efforts and our efforts put together, because, you may need stuff from us too. And I just love the fact that, that relationship that we have, and it'll continue to grow, is amazing. I've worked with other lawyers, and it doesn't feel right, right? And this feels right.
Yeah, we get that a lot. And that's the answer to the question from your perspective. It's why the lawyer, because we build this relationship.
Yeah.
When you want to refer that client, you want to know that it just doesn't end there, let alone a client that ends up having to go to independent legal advice to a lawyer that you've never seen, you've never met. Whereas when you send it to us, you know that it's going to be an extension of your kind of client management model. We're going to be on brand, and they're going to come back to you hopefully every time and say that was painless. That was great.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, because buying and refinancing is very stressful, and it's our job to work together to make it at ease. And we've done that. Like I said, we
Absolutely.
had no issues, and like I said, it was a little bit rocky. You guys stepped up, and everything was smooth, right?
That's right. And we're able to have that conversation sort of on the back end, saying, okay, this is the timing, making sure that the client is taken care of and knows that they're sort of that the response is there, and the response time is kind of right away.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point. You establish these networks, and we can always serve these clients really quickly and really effectively, and in a way that's on brand.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much for being here. It's been honestly a pleasure, and we look forward to referring you guys more clients, because I know they're in good hands.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We really appreciate it, Dee.
Thanks.